Hey, how's it going everybody? Welcome back to Aussie Fish Keeping. So in today's video, we're actually going to be taking a look at 7 of the hardiest aquarium fish. So all 7 of these fish are super versatile. They can go in a variety of tank styles and tank setups. They make the perfect fish for any beginner or anyone who just wants a fish that's super low maintenance and doesn't need too much care. So with that being said, make sure to stick around to the end to learn all about these 7 species. But yeah, let's just jump straight into today's video with the first fish on our list. So as for the first species on our list today, we have actually an Australian native. We have rainbow fish. So rainbow fish are a fish I've been keeping a lot lately. They're super cool. There's a variety of different species out there. A lot of them come from Australia and Papua New Guinea. I've actually only really got wild caught rainbow fish at the moment. So I've got some ornate rainbows which I've wild caught, and I've got a few crimson spot rainbows as well. But yeah, since I've started keeping these guys, I've really noticed actually how easy they are to keep. They don't really require any like crazy water parameters, and they can actually withstand really cold water conditions, especially any of the Australian native rainbow fish. On top of that, they're a super peaceful fish. They're super active and they're a great big bodied schooling fish. So if you have a larger sized aquarium and you are looking for a schooling fish, I'd highly recommend getting a few rainbow fish. But like I said, they're also very peaceful, so they can actually go with even smaller sized tetras. They can go with other Australian natives and all sorts of catfish and things like that. They can pretty much go with most tropical aquarium fish. So as for water parameters for these guys, they can actually go in waters anywhere between 18 to 28 degrees Celsius, which is around 65 to 82 degrees Fahrenheit. And depending on what species you get, you can keep them in a pH of anywhere between 6 to 8. So one of the reasons I love these guys so much is because they're just a super stunning little fish. So in the morning, when I wake up and turn on all my lights, you'll actually see all of the males sparring and showing off to the females. And when they're doing that, they have some amazing colors on them. Even when they're not doing that, they do still keep those beautiful colors. It's just they are a lot more striking in the mornings. But yeah, with that being said, rainbow fish are definitely a super hardy aquarium fish, and I'd highly recommend them for your aquarium. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have one that I talk about a lot. We have Danos. So Danos are another super cool little active schooling fish. They come in a variety of colors. You can get zebra Danos, leopard Danos, longfin Danos, gold Danos. There's all sorts of different colors and varieties out there, and they are a super hardy fish. So in my opinion, Danos are by far one of the best beginner fish anyway, just because they are super hardy. They're relatively peaceful and they don't really require a lot of care. So I will just quickly say, I've mentioned this in a lot of my videos before, but as for tank mates for these guys, they can't really go with long-finned fish like guppies or other long-finned fish like that, just because Danos are super fast and they can be very nippy, so you don't want to keep them with any long-finned colorful fish. However, if you do get the long-finned Danos like long-finned leopards or long-finned zebras or things like that, those longer fins actually do slow them down a lot, so they're not as nippy and they can go with a wider variety of tank mates. And in my opinion, the long-fin variants just look a lot cooler anyway. They look like a little dragon or a butterfly. And on top of that, I might have mentioned this before, but they can go in a variety of water parameters. So as for the water parameters, these guys can withstand a temperature anywhere between 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, which is around 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And then they do like a bit of a higher pH, but you can keep them in anything between 6 to 8. So like I said before, these guys are all around just one of the greatest fish that you can get for your aquarium. They're super active, they're super interesting, relatively peaceful, and super easy to care for. So if you are looking for a super hardy aquarium fish, I would highly recommend Danos. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super cold tolerant fish. We have Madaka. So Madaka or rice fish are a super cool little fish. They're very similar to guppies, except they're not live bearers obviously, and these guys will actually just carry the eggs like underneath them until they find somewhere to deposit them. It's super weird. But yeah, Madaka, like I said before, are super cold tolerant. So I believe they actually originate from Japan or somewhere near there. So it's obviously very cold in that sort of region. And obviously that means the water's going to be cold. So these guys can withstand all sorts of colder water conditions. On top of that, they're super peaceful. So they are a top dwelling fish, which means you can keep them with a lot of smaller bottom dwelling fish like cherry shrimp, coolie loaches, Coridor Catfish, all sorts of things things like that. The only thing you do want to look out for is you don't want any nippy fish in with them, just because they are a top dwelling fish, so they're generally going to be hanging around that top area. So if you have nippy fish nipping them from underneath, that's obviously going to stress them out a lot, and they can jump out of their tank or pond or whatever you're keeping them in. So you definitely don't want that, and you should just be careful what you're keeping with. But yeah, as for water parameters for these guys, they can go in anything between 16 to 24 degrees Celsius, which is around 60 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And the pH should be anywhere between 6.5 to 8.5. Again, these guys do prefer that higher pH as well, so probably anywhere between 7 to 8. But in saying that, these guys are super hardy and they really don't mind what water parameters they're kept in. As long as you're keeping them well fed and with suitable for tank mates, you should find these guys thrive in your aquarium. And like I said before, these guys are super similar to guppies, except they don't breed as prolifically, and it's a lot easier to control their breeding. So if you do like guppies but you aren't a fan of them just multiplying and making hundreds and thousands of babies, I would highly recommend taking a look at Madaka. But in saying that, if you are looking for another super hardy aquarium fish, I would highly recommend Madaka or rice fish. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have a super cool little catfish. We have Coridor Catfish. So cories are probably one of the most common beginner fish. They're sold a lot of the time in pet shops as well as fish stores, and the main ones you're gonna find are peppered cories, bronze cories, and albino cories. But obviously there's hundreds of different cories out there. There's pygmy cories, there's gold lasers, there's all sorts of other different unique species out there as well. So there definitely is a Coridorus for everyone out there. So some of the great things about these guys is, number one, they actually help a lot with tank maintenance and tank cleaning. So not only will these guys go around and eat any leftover food that your other fish miss, but they're also gonna sift through your substrate and kick up any debris, which makes it a lot easier for your filter to suck up, and generally that'll make your water column a lot cleaner. And the other great thing about these guys is they're super peaceful, so they can go with tetras, barbs, coolie loaches, guppies, Madaka, all sorts of fish like that. As long as you aren't keeping them with anything too nippy or anything that can obviously just eat them, then they should go fine with a majority of fish species out there. So as for water parameters for these guys, you're gonna want a temperature of around 22 to 24 degrees Celsius, which is around 72 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit, and you're gonna want a pH anywhere between 6.5 to 7.5. But yeah, with that being said, Coridor Catfish are another super hardy aquarium fish, and I would highly recommend them. Moving on to the next fish on our list, I don't think this is gonna come as a surprise to anyone. We have guppies. So I absolutely love guppies. I used to have heaps of guppy strains. I now only have a few, but I still definitely love them. So these guys are, again, by far one of the most popular aquarium fish for beginners and experienced hobbyists alike. There's so many different strains out there. You can get all sorts of colors, fin shapes. There's literally so many types of guppies, it's not even funny. And obviously these guys are a live bearer, which does mean they're super easy to breed just because they give birth to live young, and those live young come out at a decent size already, so they're relatively easy to raise up. The only thing you do need to look out for when raising live guppies is the parents and other fish in your aquarium will actually eat those live babies. So you either need to have lots of plants and lots of hiding spaces in there, or you can obviously just take the guppy fry out. So one of the really great things about these guys is they're super duper peaceful. So they can go with tetras, rasboras, all sorts of catfish like bristlenose and cories, literally any sort of tropical fish, as long as they're not too nippy, like shortfin danios and barbs and things like that. Just because guppies do have very colorful flowing fins, and that can draw a lot of attention to them. So if you have nippy fish, they're definitely gonna go after your guppies. So as for water parameters for these guys, they do like a temperature of around 18 to 24 degrees Celsius, which is around 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. And they also like a higher pH just because they are a live bearer. So anywhere between 6 to 8 is perfectly fine for them. So one of the only downsides to guppies is they are prone to a lot of diseases just because they've been inbred and yeah, just been like crossbred and things like that. So you could alternatively get endlers, which are obviously another live bearer. They are related to guppies, of course, but they are a lot smaller and they have like very different coloration. The only thing with endlers is they do like a lot higher temperatures, so guppies can withstand lower temperatures, but endlers do prefer heated aquariums. So yeah, that is why I'd say guppies are a little bit more hardy, just because they can withstand those lower temperatures and they're just a super easy fish to care for. So yeah, with that being said, if you are looking for a hardy aquarium fish, I would highly recommend guppies. Moving on to the next fish on our list, we have another super cool catfish. We have Bristlenose. So Bristlenose are another super cool, super popular catfish. They are a sucking mouth catfish, which does mean they help out a lot when it comes to algae control. So these guys are a lot of the time sold as cleaner fish, and I don't really agree with that, just because I do think people buy these sometimes, particularly beginners, and they think they can just throw them in your aquarium and just leave them. They're just gonna eat the algae and like fish poo and they're just gonna survive. But obviously that's false. I mean, they can eat a lot of algae, and I have Bristlenose in all of these tanks and I never get surface algae, but you definitely do need to feed them as well. So they need some sort of specialized diet like algae wafers or other sinking wafers, and also they can eat like zucchini, green beans, rock melon, all sorts of fruits and vegetables like that. So these guys are actually an armored catfish, which does mean they can go with a variety of different tank mates, just because they're a lot like tougher and stronger than other fish. So they can obviously go with any smaller like tropical fish. They can go with cherry shrimp, and you can even keep larger specimens with African cichlids. So as for water parameters for these guys, they do like a temperature of around 23 to 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 74 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and they do like a pH of around 6.5 to 7.5 as well. So the super cool thing about these guys, and kind of why they're just called Bristlenose, I guess, is because the males actually get like super bushy little tentacle looking things on their nose. They're super weird looking. They do have a proper name, but I forgot what they are. I might pop it up on the screen if I remember. But yeah, not only are they a super cool fish, but they're a super hardy fish, and I would highly recommend them for your aquarium. And moving on to the final fish on our list, we have another super colorful fish. We have cherry barbs. So cherry barbs, in my opinion, are super slept on. They're a really underrated fish, and I actually think they're probably one of the best beginner fish out there, along with Madaka and Danos and like literally every other fish on this list. But basically, if you don't know what a cherry barb is, it's like a little red fish, kind of why they get their name. The males are like super bright red. They get like really deep red once they've been in your aquarium for a while, and the females will just stay a little bit more plain and like pale brownish color. So cherry barbs are a super peaceful fish, and they're one of the greatest community fish out there. They're very peaceful, so they're not going to nip at anything. They can go with all sorts of tropical fish like bristlenose, tetras, other barbs, any sort of fish like that. They also do best in planted aquariums, just because obviously number one, they feel more safe in a planted tank, so they're gonna like put on much nicer colors, but also the contrast from the green plants to their red bodies is like amazing, and they just pop so much more. But yeah, as for water parameters for these guys, they do like a temperature of around 22 to 27 degrees Celsius, which is about 72 to 80 degrees Fahrenheit, and they like a pH of anywhere between 6 to 8. So another great thing about these guys is they're actually relatively active, and they're always going to be swimming around that mid water column. They're never going to like sit still or just float around. So they're definitely a super interesting fish to add, and they do school. So I would actually recommend keeping one male to every 2 females, very similar to guppies. The only reason is because if you have females for your male to show off to, they're obviously going to be a lot brighter and a lot more colorful. But yeah, with that being said, cherry barbs are another super hardy aquarium fish, and I would highly recommend them for your aquarium. So that is going to bring us to the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope I helped you guys find a hardy aquarium fish. If you haven't done so already, please make sure to go down and subscribe, and while you're down there, smash the like button and comment your thoughts on today's video. I always go down there and I reply back to every comment I get. I'll also just quickly say thank you to everybody who commented on the new camera. A lot of people were saying that the quality was a lot better, so I'm super happy. I'll try and get a new microphone soon as well, so the audio can be a lot better. But yeah, thank you everybody for the comments. I really do appreciate them. But with that being said, I hope you all enjoyed, and I'll see you all in that next video.